What is up, guys? Troy here. In this episode of Winning Ways, we're going to talk about the foregrip and burst firing, and I wanted to clarify some reasons on why exactly I use the foregrip heavy barrel combination. One of the big problems in this game that you have to combat, not only besides the enemy players on the opposing team, is in fact what's called spread. We all know what spread is. It gets exacerbated when you're suppressed. The longer you fire your weapon, the more the spread will increase when you're hip firing as opposed to ADSing. You know, your spread values are going to be a lot higher. So the name of the game is always reducing the spread of your weapon, no matter what kind of weapon you're using. And naturally, of course, in Battlefield 3, for balance reasons, some weapons have more base spread than the others. The base spread for the M16A3, which is the weapon I'm going to showcase in this because it is my most commonly used weapon, is 0.2. The lower the number, the better. For example, the AS-VAL, when standing still, aiming down sights, its spread value is 0.0. And there was a Symthic thread a few months back called Heavy Barrel plus Foregrip equals Best Friends Forever. And basically the guys at Symthic, which break down the game code of all the weapons and their values and attachments and all this for not only Battlefield 3 but for other various first-person shooter games, basically found out that despite what DICE had said in some of the previous balancing patches, the heavy barrel foregrip combination is still the best combination of attachments on most all assault rifles and carbines for the engineer kit, with I believe the only exception being the AN-94 is the one that I don't use the foregrip on because that one actually suffers from a spread and recoil problem. But the main reason that this thread had to happen and Symthic kind of got to the bottom of this is basically because DICE within their patch notes, they're always vague. If you go back and you read previous patch notes lists from the previous patches of Battlefield 3, they always use the terms, and I quote, slight increase, slight decrease, and they don't define what the slight increase or slight decrease is unless they're actually just going to adjust the weapon's max or minimum damage value. So today I wanted to talk about how I burst fire when using the heavy barrel and foregrip combination. Now I see a lot of people in other videos kind of burst fire like this, which is decent depending on the weapon you're using, and you can see I have quite a bit of little spread there, and I tend to burst fire in groups of 5 like that. The reason is, besides vertical recoil that pulls up and horizontal recoil, which kind of bounces back and forth side to side, you also have what's called a first shot multiplier. Now, come Battlefield 4, we're going to have two different types of foregrips. We're going to have an angled foregrip, which is supposed to reduce that first shot multiplier and increase decrease your spread and increase your accuracy at greater distances. And of course, you're going to have the vertical foregrip, which is what I have equipped now on the M16A3, and that's supposed to reduce a lot of the side-to-side recoil that it does in Battlefield 3, but also tend to equal a little bit better hip fire because your hip fire spread is always going to be a lot greater than your ADS spread. Moving, regardless of position, regardless of ADSing or hip fire, your spread's always going to be higher when you're moving, and it's definitely going to be the highest when you're moving, suppressed, and in hip fire mode, as opposed to standing still, unsuppressed, with a heavy barrel, burst firing, and aiming down sights, excuse me. So when I tend to burst fire, I tend to burst fire like this. I let off 1 or 2 rounds and then let it resettle and just pull back down. And I like to throw in a crouch in there. I tend to throw the enemy off, but I see a lot of people burst fire like that with not much recoil compensation. Now, the only downside right now for the foregrip is to not use it with the heavy barrel. If you're going to use a foregrip, you have to use it with the heavy barrel because the decrease in spread and the increased ADS accuracy of the heavy barrel outweighs the negative benefits of the foregrip, besides the hip fire penalty that you do receive. You do receive a hip fire penalty when using the foregrip on any weapon, regardless of a heavy barrel. But you'll never see me use a foregrip without the heavy barrel. It's always with. Now, the best way to overcompensate or to compensate for the decreased accuracy while hip firing is just to do that. You'll see it in some of my videos where it looks like I got my buttons mixed up and I go to reload but I'm still in ADS mode. It's because I'm trying to make sure my hip fire is decent if I get rushed. And you'll see my hip fire, as long as you don't burst it, you actually drop the hammer, your burst firing in hip fire mode will have ADS spread values. So basically all I do is go into ADS mode, hold down the fire button, and then release ADS mode. Another example. Just like that. And you'll see me kind of do that in certain videos, and that's why I do that. But that's the best thing about this heavy barrel and foregrip combination. The name of the game is trying to combat as much spread as you can in this game, and with suppression being the way it is, your spread values go through the roof. Running and moving while hip firing, your spread values go through the roof. The longer your bursts, the higher your spread's going to be. So I tend to do 4 to 5 round bursts, and that's it, while compensating for recoil. But guys, that's going to be it for this video. I really hope this makes you a better player and a better teammate, and really clarifies why I use the foregrip with the heavy barrel. Yes, it is still a viable combination in Battlefield 3. Hopefully it's still a viable combination come Battlefield 4. But as always, guys, I really appreciate you watching the video and supporting me, and take care.